HPU Esports Arena, powered by DSC Hawaii, on the Hawaii Pacific University campus at Aloha Tower Marketplace. Here's your host, Hawaii Pacific University's Vice President and Chief Marketing Communications Officer, Jeffrey Rich.
Aloha, Sharks Nation. We are back from the winter break and live once again from the beautiful campus of Hawaii Pacific University here at Aloha Tower Marketplace. We are broadcasting from HPU's Esports Arena, powered by DSE Hawaii. I am your host, Jeff Rich, and we are back to cover all the happenings across HPU athletics through the spring semester. So this morning we're going to be talking women's basketball with Assistant Coach Timothy J. Dunham and MBA student Ashley Nunez, hailing from the great state of Texas in the town of El Paso. But before we get into basketball, let's say hello to our in-studio sidekicks, HPU Sports Information Director Mr. Marcus DeWall and our in-studio producer Mr. Paul Breck. Gentlemen, we haven't seen each other in, 3 weeks now with the break? How'd it go? Any fun happenings to report?
Yeah, it was pretty nice. I got to go home back to California over break. Got to spend the latter half with the women and men's basketball team, and so it was fun. It was weird being back in California as a visitor and being back in the Bay Area as a visitor, but had a really good time at Academy of Art and Dominican seeing our teams play. Nice, and it really wasn't much of a break for you. I remember we talked before the break on our last show that there was no rest for the weary here with HPU Athletics. You were going to be out and about covering things through the winter break. Yeah, making sure our men's and women's basketball team gets covered, and then we have all our spring sports starting up. It seems like the same exact weekend, so just getting that all taken care of before the season starts. Nice. Well, we're glad to have you back and energized for the spring term and covering all the fantastic happenings. Paul, what were you up to over the break?
Well, I mean, you said it. There's no rest for the weary. I still got a chance to kind of relax a little bit, but had some family come out, had a friend come out from college, and who was playing the host with the most for a few weeks. And then obviously sports don't stop during the holiday break as much as other people love to wish for that to be happening, but nonetheless, it was super fun. Got to take in some really, really high-level games. Both, men's volleyball just started over at HPU. I haven't necessarily got my fix quite yet in this new year of basketball, but I'm really looking forward to both the men's and women's teams as they start to get into the meat of their conference schedules.
Yeah, I would agree. It's going to be an exciting semester for men's and women's basketball. We're gonna talk basketball here this morning. So let me introduce our two in studio guests. We have assistant women's basketball coach Mr. Timothy J. Dunham and MBA student. I was going to say senior guard, but you're graduated now. Ashley Nunez. So welcome, guys. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. We thank you for inviting us over. Well,
we're glad to have you. And Ashley, are you ready to go for the spring term and the season here? You guys started out a little rough. You're 3-7, but 3-3 at home, or 3-3 at home, 1-3 in the conference. But are you ready to ramp it up and really start to hit the home stretch here?
Yeah, definitely. We play tonight. First home game of the year. We got students back on campus, so we're really excited for that, and just to start the new year with a win. Nice. And you're from Texas, but what did you hang around over the break? I imagine with the basketball team, you didn't have a lot of time off over the winter break. Yeah, I've been used to it every year. We only get 5 days off for break, but very grateful to go home and spend what I got with my family, and I was able to spend some time with my little brother and my niece and just my family, really. Nice. Being a long way from home, a couple of days is really needed. So
are we excited to be back and back to some nice weather here on the islands and a little beach time when you get a break?
Yeah, but I also really like the cold, so I was happy that I was able to experience a little bit of the cold and I guess the seasons really. I do like the cold.
Wow. Well, I can appreciate that you like it. I'm not a fan of the cold, and I spent my break. I went back to the very cold state of Minnesota, but the weather wasn't too bad. It was, in the 50s, which that's warm that time of year. I can remember years that I lived there where I was cracking ice in the driveway with a sledgehammer to break it up. But spent a little time in Minnesota where my family gathers, and then I went back to the East Coast, out to Williamsburg, saw some old friends at my old stomping ground, William and Mary. We'll talk a little football later because we got the William and Mary Bowl coming up in the NFL playoffs between the Buffalo Bills and the Pittsburgh Steelers with Coach Tomlinson and Coach McDermott, both hailing from William and Mary. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But I want to talk to Coach Dunham here because we were chatting before, and you have been at this for 35 years, coaching basketball back from your days at Chaminade. But you're a legend at Chaminade in the Hall of Fame and in the Hawaii State Athletics Hall of Fame. So a really illustrious career. Congrats on all the success. How does it feel to be one of the elder statesmen of basketball here in Hawaii?
Well, some years ago when we did have that great upset over Ralph Samson and the Virginia team, me and players got together just about 3 months ago because it's 9 of us still communicate with each other. And we discussed it, and we said we wasn't even thinking about it when we was playing it, that after 40-some years, this game is still miraculous. The greatest upset in NC2A basketball.
Did you see the documentary, was it The Greatest Upset No One Saw, I think was the title of it?
I've seen that. They're in the process now of trying to make a documentary, as well as trying to make a movie out of this. Merv and the Miracles, which is our head coach of Merv. So it's exciting. It was great then, and it's still moving forward now. So I don't know. I'm just excited about what the end going to be like.
Yeah. Well, you were telling me earlier one of your moments of memory that you'll never forget is dunking on Ralph Samson. So what was he, 7'2"?
No. Don't cheat him. He was 7'4". He was 7'4", and it so happened as a big pinnacle part of the game. It turned everything around. Our momentum shifted because we was in the game the whole time. But then we needed a special play, and our special play was a backdoor alley-oop to me. And they threw me an alley-oop, and I looked down at Ralph. He's all over the floor. He's 7'4".
Yeah.
So we was able to be successful that way. So I was glad about it. It helped me to get drafted.
Wow. So you got drafted by Portland
Trail Blazers.
And we were talking earlier about the amazing talent on that team. Clyde the Glide Drexler and... Boy, tell us a bit about that experience. That
was a great experience. It really was. Jack Ramsey was the head coach then.
He was quite a dresser, wasn't he? That guy.
Yes, he was. Yes, it was just like Merv Lopes.
For those that don't know, this guy would come out. This is in the 70s and the 80s. He'd come out in these checkered pants with a purple sport coat. This crazy stuff.
That was Jack. He came out, and he told me on the first day we met that I'm gonna put you in a room with somebody's head bigger than yours. I said, I don't have a big head. So he roomed me with Clyde Drexler. And Clyde was the nicest person you ever wanted to meet. Very quiet, very, I think he's underrated as a basketball player. I really do. Because he's I think he should be in at least 150, 50, I mean. Because he's a good ball player. He was a strong ball player. And legit 6'7".
Yep. Now he went to Houston as a college player, didn't he? If I'm not mistaken.
With the five Mama Jammers or whatever they call them.
That's right.
Back then, yeah.
Now, did they play Virginia in the NCAA finals? Or am I thinking was that maybe?
No. Virginia lost early in the finals.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Okay. Now, so Clyde was from Houston, so back, not too far from El Paso, I guess. But you were saying earlier, so you weren't familiar with Ralph Samson or Clyde Drexler.
No, I had no idea who he was.
Ashley, when you think back about old era NBA players that you remember, like who comes to mind? Who are some of the older players that aren't playing anymore that you view as some of the best players of all time?
I actually really like Dennis Rodman.
Okay.
Wow.
Heck of a rebounder, though.
Yes.
But Yeah, I mean, Jordan. Me and my dad really like Jordan.
Okay.
So I guess them too.
Do you remember the old Magic Johnson, Larry Bird era, or was that just way too early for you?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, my dad would talk about it here and there and stuff because he really liked watching that. And he was a soccer player though, but he was a big fanatic of Michael Jordan. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, boy, you look back now, and boy, that was the golden age of basketball, and all the amazing players that were coming through in the 80s, and that rivalry was just amazing to watch. Marcus, what's your thought on some of the old-time NBA players?
Well, I just think about how, like, an achievement like Coach Dunham being that 1983 draft, because you have some like the league's greatest players that came out of that draft. I think it's one of the, if not the best, like one of the like top 3 best draft classes in NBA history. And then I was looking on Wikipedia the other day, just looking at who Coach Dunham was drafted before, and I realized he got drafted before Manute Bol.
Did you?
Yeah.
There's another guy who was 7'6", wasn't he?
Yes.
Wow. All right, well, hey, we're going to take a quick break because we're a little over our first segment with some interesting conversation about the old NBA, but we'll be back in a moment. You're listening to Sharks Weekly here on the beautiful campus of Hawai'i Pacific University. I'm Jeff Rich, your host, and we will be right back.
You're listening to Sharks Weekly on the Hawaii Sports Radio Networks, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
And we're back. And hey, don't forget that you can catch all of our Sharks Weekly broadcasts by visiting the Hawaii Sports Radio Network website and looking for Sharks Weekly. This year we've rolled out something new. You can see what's happening in studio during our broadcast with a YouTube live stream that we've broadcasted. So we're talking women's basketball here. We've got Coach Dunham and Ashley Nunez from the team, who is an MBA student. So you graduated last year, and you're thinking career, right? So I think I'd read you want to be an FBI agent or a family attorney.
Yeah. Right now, I'm strongly wanting to pursue law school once I'm done with my grad school. I've been really fortunate enough in the past years to do some internships with some really high attorneys back in El Paso. So it's definitely, heightened my experiences. But yeah, definitely law school is something I do really want to pursue.
What's the inspiration for you, just in family practice in particular? What's been the driving force behind that interest?
I have really no attorneys in my family, but I had a family situation that happened where I was able to be in court, and it just really inspired me to want to just help people, especially the welfare system and just kids, really.
Yep.
But yeah.
Well, it's a great pursuit, and certainly something that can have an impact on other people's lives. Are you targeting a specific law school?
My dream law school is UT Law, but that's the number one school if I could get in there.
Do you see going back to Texas and leaving Hawaii when you graduate?
I've thought about it, but it's also there is a law school here at UH Hawaii, so there is potential there, but yeah, I kind of going back and forth with that still. So yeah.
And this is your last year of eligibility, so did you get the extra year from the pandemic?
Yes, so okay. This is my extra year right now.
Wow. So. That's probably the only silver lining for so many of the students that went through that experience is you get to, you get that extra year of eligibility, you can extend it into grad school, which is a little not all that usual. But as I was looking through your profile, so we always like to ask our guests what's their superstition, their sort of thing to get ready, and you drink coffee.
Yes, I am a coffee lover. Very much so. I drink a lot of coffee.
Before the game?
Before the game, yeah. I have a...
Wait, does that hurt? Because I can remember, athletes that used to drink like a can of Coke or something. It's like, something sugary that is not good to drink. But does that caffeine fix help?
It really does. I mean, I think it does. But yeah, I feel off if I don't drink at least like my coffee right before a game, and I won't drink it that morning because I have, coffee in the morning all the time. But when it's game days, I typically wait until it's like 2-3 hours before the game, and then I'll have my coffee for the day. Yeah.
All right. So you've kind of adapted to the cuisine out here on the islands, and taken a liking to was it Kailua pork?
Kailua pork, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I really like the Hawaiian dish of Kailua pork and Okinawan sweet potato, purple sweet potato.
Yep.
Yeah, I went a couple months ago to my very first luau, and it's where I had it there, and I just was like, it was just so good. And I just really like the purple sweet potato. I make it at my house sometimes, and it's really, really good.
Nice. Well, it's kind of an obscure, unique thing to eat out here.
Yeah.
As there are many things that are not easily available. I keep talking about my love of apple bananas, and nobody else in the country seems to know what an apple banana is until you get out here. Wow. Well, I'm glad that you've enjoyed your Hawaii experience, it's nice you consider to stay and go to law school out here.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's definitely just really grateful to be out here, and and I never would have thought if you would have asked me 3 years ago being here in Hawaii, I would have absolutely been like, you're crazy. No. So definitely very grateful to be out here.
Very nice. Well, all right. So I want to go around. We were talking earlier about some of the old timers in the NBA, and Tim, some of your experiences with Portland and Chaminade. So let me start with kind of going around the table and favorite NBA players. I'm going to start with you, Ashley.
For me, LeBron James. Yeah.
LeBron. Yeah, he set the standard in the modern era, that's for sure. All right. Who do you look up to, Tim, when you think about NBA players that you admired back in your playing days or even now? But, who hits your radar?
Well, there's several players that I believe that is a standard. And one of those is Ray Allen.
Ray Allen, yeah.
Yeah, Ray Allen, he's just calm and, he just plays basketball. He knows what he's there for and just do his job. And as well as my roommate Clyde Drexler, by all means, because me and him still communicate, things like that. We talk a little bit. If I was to look at a big guy, it would be Michael Thompson. Mike Thompson, me and him had great communication, and when we was at Portland, and we talked well with each other. Now, some of the players that I thought was way out there was Wayne Cooper. And I said way out there in the mannerism of when I was a rookie, he bragging to me about how much money he got in the bank. But he came to me looking at me talking about, are you going to take me out to breakfast and pay for it? I said, no, I'm not.
Wait. He was bragging about how much money he was making, but asking you to take him to breakfast?
Yes. I said, that's not.
It's not a good way to start that conversation.
No.
You're looking for a free meal.
No.
All right, so those are some good ones. What about you, Marcus? Who do you look back and think, man, that was the guy?
Yeah, so growing up in the East Bay, especially when early 2000s, mid 2000s, we just had a lot of sucky teams, and I think it really helped grow some character and learn how what it's like to lose. And I learned a lot being a Raiders and Warriors and A's fans in the early 2000s, and so
the Warriors were not the team that people think of today. They were horrific for decades.
So when you'd go to a Warriors game, you'd go to see the stars of the other team, and so I remember going to Oracle and just going to see Kobe on those mid 2000s teams, and you'd see way more. You see a couple hundred Warriors jerseys, a couple Jason Richardson jerseys out there, but. One of my favorite players growing up was that's what really started turning the tide of Bay Area sports was the We Believe team. And so when I think it was 2006, the Warriors entered the playoffs the 8th seed, and Dirk was coming off one of his crazy years where he MVP year actually for him. And then the Warriors just I think they got to be, if not the only, but one of the only 8 seeds to upset a 1 seed in the playoffs. And so I just remember I got to go to game 1, and I just remember it was the game 3 because they hosted the first 2, and I just remember going there and just Baron Davis dude just like he wasn't that. He's probably like 6 foot, like with shoes on. But and I just remember like the way he played, like just like some people just like embody like the city they play in, and you know the Warriors, you know, like not like on paper like they probably shouldn't have made the playoffs that year, but you know just one of the teams that snuck in. But like if you're scrappy and if you have like a city that gets behind you, it's like it's one of the great equalizers in sports. And so he definitely like, you know, I got to see, you know, Curry and Thompson and Green make their rise there, but you know, before all the hype and before it was just like that we believed, you know, Jason Richardson, you know, Donald Foyle, like all those guys, like that's my favorite team, like players and team of all time. Yeah.
Nice. Paul, what are you thinking?
I'm pretty sure Donald Foyle played close to where I grew up for at least a year or two. The question is, favorite player? Is that...
Could be favorite, you know, somebody you admired, you thought was a dominant player.
Oh my gosh, I admire so many players. I mean, my goodness, I look at these guys and they're phenomenal. Growing up, I often looked at Chris Paul, simply one, because my name is Paul and I am corny like that, but also because I really appreciated the way that he played the point guard position. Obviously, people refer to him oftentimes as a point guard and whatnot, and just the way that he had an understanding of the game, I very much so had an appreciation for, and it was something that I tried to model my game after. Obviously, as a Knicks fan, I love guys like I love Melo. I love Carmelo Anthony. One, because the Knicks were dreadful, pitiful for a large portion of my childhood until he came, and now Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, those are my dogs. I mean, Marcus, you talk about having players that embody the place that you play in, and that's something that a lot of Knicks fans fell in love with this team and teams of previous years very recently, is the hard-nosed aspect. And that's something that you see everywhere, right, where you just kind of fall in love with these players who they put their head down, they don't make excuses, and they go to work and they excel. And those are two guys right now, especially Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, that I sit here and I'm like, man, because it's also... And Tim, you could probably speak to this a little bit, knowing people who have played at the highest level, the media criticism and whatnot that comes along with it. Like, to be able to be at the top of your task while also in the crosshairs of everybody else. I don't know. I have a lot of respect for people like that and people who are able to succeed and thrive in situations like that.
Yeah, I could not agree more. You know, I came of age, I remember the team, I'd grown up in Buffalo, New York, and the first basketball games I became aware of, guys don't even, Buffalo had a basketball team, the Buffalo Braves. Mm-hmm. They ended up becoming, I think, the Clippers. Mm-hmm. They moved out to California. Mm-hmm. But boy, that team, I remember going to see Ernie DiGregorio, Swen Nader, Marvin Barnes. I mean, boy, some names from the past. But in that era, do you remember him? Boy,
I played with him.
Did you? Man, those were some old time players that knew how to throw that rock down. Boy. But in that era, one of the guys that I was really a fan of, somebody I'm guessing that you've met, Bill Walton.
Bill Walton. So coming out of UCLA, mm-hmm. following up after Kareem, mm-hmm. dominant college player, although he's on that team that lost that long winning streak that they had and ended up winning the championship in Portland, overcoming all of those injuries, and then having a second career in Boston. Mm-hmm. Have you got a chance to meet him or ever? I didn't get a chance to meet Bill, per se and things like that. But, he was in the circuit, around here and there. But he was a great player, as you said, but injuries plagued him.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. But he was a good center.
Man, that guy played on a completely broken foot, the bone spurs, and just, yeah. Well, hey, we're going to take another quick break, and we will be back, and we'll talk more basketball. We're going to get a look ahead here and what's been going on the last couple of weeks at HPU. I'm your host, Jeff Rich. You're listening to Sharks Weekly, and we will be right back.
Back to to the DSE Hawaii Esports Arena on the Hawaii Pacific University's Aloha Tower Marketplace campus. It's Sharks Weekly on 95.1 FM and AM 760.
And we are back live on the campus of Hawaii Pacific University at the DSE Esports Arena here, talking basketball. And we're going to talk a little football this morning, too, given the news about Belichick leaving New England. But before we go multi-sport today, Marcus, you as we were saying earlier, you didn't get a lot of time off over the winter break. You were making the rounds, following all the HPU teams around the country, seeing what's going on. To give us a little taste of what's been happening the last couple weeks.
Yeah, so like I said, right before break, the women's basketball teams played in the Hoops in Hawaii Classic, and that was a really fun and special time. For the men's side, they upset number 9 San Bernardino, and so it was just a great win and great performance by Melo. I think he dropped like 31 in that game. There's some times where just Melo just is like the best shooter on the planet, and it's amazing. And that game was one of those moments where he just goes unconscious, and like he probably enters the second half with like 8 points. Then you're like, what? He's at 31, and so and then they played against Lincoln University of California, and that's always like fun for me, just seeing like a Bay Area team come to Hawaii. And so it was cool seeing Gary Payton there. Probably didn't have the best time there, because we won, but it was just a good show. They brought the fight to us, definitely, so hats off to them. But it was a good overtime win against them, and then our third game in 3 days was against Alaska Anchorage, and they're a tough team, and they got the best of us in that game. But the men's team just competed, and I think the conference had a perception of how this team would turn out this season, and I feel like we're doing the complete opposite, and we're going to turn a lot of heads, and we're already turning a lot of heads this season for the men's side. And then for the women's, they had a standalone game against Carroll College, an NAIA powerhouse, and it was just a grueling back and forth game, and we were able to pull one out, and just a solid win to end the year off. And the middle of break after the new year, we started conference play again. Both our teams took a loss against Academy of Art, but they bounced back against Dominican. Our women's team competed well, and our men's team was able to pull out a win. And so a lot of good momentum coming into this homestand, and we're running it back again against Dominican and Academy of Art. And so it's gonna be a lot of fun home games. And then next week is when we start the Hawaii portion of our schedule. And so nothing. I always love like rivalry games. Like I'm obsessed. Like being an APU grad, I'd cut off my right arm if that meant I would never win a game. And so so excited to see our teams go up against Chaminade and Hawaii Hilo. I think like the special thing about those games is the record doesn't matter, because hate's the great equalizer in those games, and so it's gonna be fun to see some of the island's best hoopers just square off, and it's gonna be exciting. Expect to see a lot of packed stadiums for that.
Nice. Now you mentioned Gary Payton. Boy, that guy was a trash talker. Did you ever encounter him? He played for what? Seattle, was it? Supersonics.
Yeah, Seattle Supersonics. The glove.
No, I was blessed not to play this.
Well, what about trash talking? From a player's point of view, your experience, and Ashley, yours. Well, first of all, do we have any trash talkers on our team? Do we? And does that get players up? Does that really get the energy flowing?
I don't feel like we do. I don't feel like we have a lot of trash talkers on the team. We'll get into it a little bit, but it's...
Nobody's jawing at somebody just to kind of throw them off their game?
Not really. At my old school, I used to have this one girl, and man, she was tough. She was a good player, though. I respect her on that. But here at Hawaii, I wouldn't say too much trash talking, but... yeah.
What about you, Tim? Were you a quiet player? Did you jaw at the other team a little bit?
No, my team jawed out for me. All I did was just play. I knew I was going to get 22 points, and my team knew I was going to get 22 points. That's what we average. And all I would do was just play. Even when I dunked on someone, they say, well, he got more to come. Yep. All I did was just play.
Well, so who do you remember from your playing days as being, the guy just would not shut up on that court and just kept going after the other team?
Well, on my team, it was Tony Randolph as well as Ernie Petway.
Okay.
Mark Wells, Mark Rodriguez, my God, he was really talked. But far as playing other teams that really talked some trash to us, not really.
Okay.
Not really, because I was going to do mine.
Yeah. Well, so you made the statement with your game, not your job. Wow. Yeah. Marcus, you were going to throw some thoughts out here.
Well, I mean, there's not really any trash talking in cross country or track, and so I mean, if you're trash talking, you're not running fast enough, and so. But I would say, if you had to take a poll in the Pac West, I probably talk the most trash for SIDs. You know. So
Marcus is our resident trash talk.
Yeah, you know when my mentor, my old boss Ben Rosehart, we always playfully go back and forth. You know, they're coming, late in our schedule, but I'm emailing him. I'm like, yeah, dude, you're not ready for us, dude. I'm emailing him in a polite little, it's dear Ben Rosehart, you're not ready to get shut down by Megan Jones or have Erica Glenn drop 20 on your team. But it's all in good fun, and it's always it's exciting just to see familiar faces. But yeah, I don't think I've ever. I think it would just be really corny if a cross country or track runner talk trash, because I don't even think you have the time. That's the last thing on my mind.
How effective that would be. You're running 800 meters or whatever, and somebody's 50 meters behind you yelling, "You're getting tired now. I can sense it. I'm catching you."
Yeah,
you're getting close.
Just have an asthma attack after I say that or something. But.
Well, that's what my thought was when you're running, I wouldn't want to waste my breath trying to yell and trash talk to somebody. I'm trying to keep my breath so I can keep running.
Yeah, it's just not intimidating at all. It's if someone talk trash to me and they're wearing the shortest shorts of all time, it's I'm not going to take anything to heart what you're saying. And so I think it's a little different if it was the throwing events or the short sprints where those guys are all jacked and ripped, and I'd be okay, I fear you. But I was a long distance runner, and so skinny dudes wearing short shorts, not the most intimidating thing. I'm not gonna
be careful.
Yeah, you're not gonna be in my nightmares with that. But
yeah.
Wow. Well, we were talking about the upcoming games for the team, and as you mentioned, I think you've got the Academy of Art tonight at the Shark Tank. Then you've got Dominican coming up, and then Chaminade on the 18th. So there's the rivalry, right? So you guys get really geared up for that game. How do you feel about that, Tim? You must go into that game with a little bit of mixed emotions. You played there. You're in the Hall of Fame. You've got all that history there, but now you're bleeding HPU blue now. So, what do you think when you go there?
Well, my main thing is trying to get our girls fired up, ready to play. It don't make no difference who we playing, but it so happened to be Chaminade. We still want to win. At the bottom line, we going to a six game homestead basically. Even though we're here and we playing Chaminade at their place, and still we're here.
Yep.
So we're looking forward to this sixth game. It starts tonight. We have to get this win, and we're doing everything we can to do that. So I'm looking forward to Chaminade. I really am. I'm gonna go up and take a picture with my little plat again. But yet and still, at the end of the day, I'm shark blue right now.
Yep. Well, you guys are 3-3 at home and 0-4 on the road, so you've got a homestand coming up, so you can get this record really onto the plus side with a strong homestand. Ashley, what's the difference from playing at home versus on the road for you guys? So you've had a lot of success, in your home games, but not so much on the road so far this season. What's the mentality that's keeping you guys from hitting it harder on the road games?
I think it's really just when we travel. I mean, obviously there's a lot of excuses that could come up. We're traveling for so far, we got to turn around, practice, shoot around, and there's so many excuses really. But I think we just need to adjust to it, and just I think we do a really good job playing together and staying together no matter what the outcome is. And I think we've been really working hard in practice. Obviously, these last two games on the road affected us because they were, we should have won. Especially Dominican, it was a tight game. And so, coming back home, we have an opportunity here, a home advantage to win and to although we're going to Chaminade, we're still here at home, and we know how Chaminade plays. We know what we need to do to really just win, and just taking advantage of being at home and just getting the win.
Nice. Well, I know you guys are gearing up and getting ready. Marcus, you're probably going to be at that game covering it.
Yeah. So looking at the women's record, I feel like, I've been at every single game, like home and away, and I'd say like the 2 losses that we have in the 7 losses, I think 2 of them, I count as like genuine losses, like we just got outplayed by those 2 Washington schools. But the other 5, I think all but one we were leading at halftime, and so it's like we were just one, like 10 minutes, like we were 10 minutes away from being the flip-flop record right there. And the record obviously doesn't show it, but I think this team's a lot better than what the record says. And it's all about just finishing, because this team, like you've like been watching this whole year, is like we start great in the first half, and then it kind of doesn't match our first half in the second half. And so definitely if we can play like we do in the first 20 minutes, I think that there's still plenty of time to turn this season around. So
yeah, well, learning how to win is part of the challenge, and one of the objectives of coaching. And you guys got a lot of juniors and some sophomores. It's not an older team. It's kind of right in the mid prime. So maybe some of the early season losses are lessons to learn and ways to figure out how to really win it down the stretch. All right, we are going to take our last break here before coming back to our last segment. I'm your host, Jeff Rich. You're listening to Sharks Weekly, and we will be right back.
You're listening to Sharks Weekly on the Hawaii Sports Radio Networks, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
And we're back. And hey, I just want to call out a couple of our amazing sponsors that make Sharks Weekly possible. Thanks, Island Insurance. Island Insurance, local experts protecting local people. And many thanks to JN Auto. JN Group, serving our great community since 1961. Now this is living. Hey guys, let's get back into a little talk about HPU sports. Marcus, what's happening in the week ahead? What can we look forward to? Anything, any big games and big happenings that we should take note of?
Yeah, so on top of our doubleheader tonight, we have HPU men's tennis kicking off their season at UH this afternoon, and so amped for that, because this school kicks butt in tennis. Our women's team went to the Final Four last year for tennis, and so always excited for that. And then golf is going to start picking up soon, later this month, and we have baseball and softball coming up. We have the first pitch bienna on the 20th for baseball, and then we have the softball alumni game on the 27th, and so a lot of fun events before the season gets underway, and they go on those grueling schedules. Oh my gosh! But I think that's one of the toughest schedules in sports is baseball, softball, and then basketball. Is like just basketball because it's like basically a year-round sport, and then baseball and softball because you're playing so many games in such a condensed amount of time, and so getting ready for those seasons to start. But yeah, just excited for conference play. I think it's I get it's exciting for the preseason schedule for basketball to play teams you normally wouldn't play, but there's something about Pac-West Conference basketball which is just like anything can happen. You can be first in December, and then all of a sudden you see yourself 8th place and you're out of the conference tournament, and so really excited to see how things shape out for us.
Nice. Well, it's going to be an exciting week, and we can look forward to getting some recaps next week on what happens in the coming week. But hey, we were chatting earlier just to change sports for a moment about the big news this morning, and that is the departure of Coach Bill Belichick from the New England Patriots, which I don't think surprised everybody, but we were talking earlier about what drives some of these perceptions that cause a coach to want to leave or a team to fire them. And, is it the fan base really looking for success all the time and driving it, or is it the media that creates a bit of a stir? And, Paul, this is your industry.
This is...
So give us a perspective.
It's funny because you're right. We were talking a little bit about it before the show began, and at times when you have successful programs, and I think you see this at the college level as well. I'm curious with Nick Saban retiring at Alabama, what happens there? Who takes that job? Where once you get a place that is winning, a program, a franchise that is winning over and over and over again, that becomes the expectation. Fair or unfair, that becomes the expectation. You see it for the Yankees as well a lot of times, and that's a big reason why their fans haven't been happy for the last 15 years. And it's a mixture, right, where you have this minority of the fan base that is exceptionally loud about their disdain for a coach or a coaching staff, and then from there it starts to pick up speed. People either agree or disagree. The media will start to pick it up and go on from there, and it's difficult, right, especially at the professional ranks where it's part of the job, right? You're like, yes, I'm playing a sport, but also it's a business side of thing, and the business means I have to deal with the media. And at some point, I don't blame coaches for just wanting to step away from all of it. I mean, for Saban specifically, I would imagine that is a big portion of it. College athletics has changed immensely in the past, 2 decades, 1 decade, 5 years even, you can say. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's the reason Saban steps away. And then in New England with Belichick, it's tough because since Brady left, that's where you've seen the narratives from the media start to play a role, where it's like, oh, can Bill do it without Brady? So in answer to your question, I think it's a mixture of both. I think the media starts to really fuel the fire, but it comes from a fan base within.
Yeah, but I think the strength of the organization and its ability to step above, some of those fan perspectives, or certainly what the media is saying, is really the key to success in creating longevity and continued success for a franchise. So I would point to examples like the Pittsburgh Steelers. 2 coaches in 40 years or something between Chuck Noll
right.
and Tomlinson. Look at what happened to Mike Vrabel and the Titans. He has had pretty strong success there through his whole tenure and made great teams out of maybe not so great talent all the time. So I look at that change, for example, as a really short-sighted decision, because the stability that he brought to that organization and the ongoing success through multiple years. Bill Belichick, you could make the claim that, his success was driven by Brady, but people forget about the success that he had before he had Tom Brady. Example, the Bills-Giants Super Bowl. That game, the most valuable player, not a player, but the most valuable person was Belichick, and the game plan that he came up with to stop that unbelievable offense that Buffalo had that year, the K-Gun, where nobody could stop them. But Belichick came up with a game plan to run the ball, to control the clock, and that is what won that game. And it was Bill Belichick's game planning that did it.
And I'm curious, Coach, perhaps you can talk about this when it comes to being in the industry. Is that something that you just kind of have to come to grips with at times, that part of the coaching cycle is that all things must end oftentimes? Like, is it something that you think about where eventually you're going to have to leave a program or a franchise or whatever, whether that be retirement or a mutual splitting of ways? Is that tough as a coach at all?
To a point it is, things like that, because most coaches, all that I know, like to win. Losing is part of the day, that's part of the game. But at the end of the day, we want to know, can we be successful as winners? And everywhere I've been, as well as Coach Alvarado, where he's been, we won. So it's difficult right now that we done got 7 behind, 7 losses right now. But at the end of the day, most fans want winners. Yep. You just don't want to just be out there losing the whole time and just losing and having a good time. That is not a good time. I would literally pull myself away if we can't all of a sudden get to the winning side of things. That's just me on a personal note.
I think that makes sense, though.
Is it one of the advantages of D2 sports versus D1 where, yeah, everybody wants to win and you're going to have some success. But at the end of the day, it's also about your education and the betterment of young people. So there's a value in that that's maybe just as or maybe even more important than ultimately winning at the D2 or certainly D3 level.
It is, but I love the ideal of the academics. Academics is the most important thing. And we push that, and the girls tell you that's just something that I always oftentimes ask them. How your classes? How you doing in class? Because I know basketball's coming to a close.
Yep.
And I understand that, but yet and still, we want the W. We want the W.
Want the W. Well, we're going to be looking forward to a string of W's here on the big homestand, and I want to thank you, Coach Dunham and Ashley. Continued success, and I have no doubt that you are going to accomplish great things as you embark on your career. And thank you for all that you've contributed to during your time here at HPU Athletics. Marcus, Paul, as always, great job, and we will hit it again next week with a recap of what's been happening over the next week. So thanks, everybody. I'm your host, Jeff Rich. You're listening to Sharks Weekly, and we will be back next week with a new show and some new guests and some exciting conversation. Everybody have a great week.
You've been listening to the Hawaii Sports Radio Network's special presentation of Sharks.